Issues 35 and 36 of our continuing series of Combat Patrol. Cry havoc and let loose the chaos dogs of war. Hello and welcome to the Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games, and today we're going to be doing issues 35 and 36 of our continuing series of Combat Patrol by Hachette Collections. Now these issues come with 5 Havocs, which are essentially heavy weapon support for the Chaos Space Marines. Now these are interesting issues because they come with the usual how to build guide, but issue 35 also has the Chaos Renegades. Now this is interesting, but something I didn't realize myself. I knew that most of the Chaos Space Marines were veterans of the original heresy. Basically, a lot of these guys are 10,000 years old, that when they retreated into the Eye of Terror after Horus was killed, time moves at a different pace. So a lot of these guys who participated in the first kind of rebellion against the Emperor are still alive and still full of pure raw hatred. However, that's not to say that fellas haven't joined their ranks since then. And guys who have joined their ranks since then are known as Chaos Renegades. So it's interesting because there is one particular group of Chaos Renegades called the Red Corsairs, who were former Astroclaws Space Marines that fell to Chaos. However, they're so kind of infamous or famous now that Abaddon has actually gifted their leader, which is a Huron Blackheart. Now he was the he was the chapter master of the Astral Claws. Is now changed his name from Lugoft Horon to Huron Blackheart, and runs the Red Corsairs and was gifted an actual Blackstone Fortress by Abaddon for his service. So an interesting little bit of lore there that I didn't know about from the Red Corsairs. And the other interesting thing about these Space Marines from the Chaos side is that a lot of their weapons would be the old type. A lot of the armor would be the old type. Weapons have changed slightly since in the 10,000 years from the 30k universe to the 40k universe. But whilst they would still have some of those old archaic weapons and that old archaic armor, it's taken on in its own kind of form with the influences and energies of chaos. So of course you have the power armor, which you can see is still the old kind of style, and you see here as well the heavy weapons. So the heavy weapons would be kind of very shoulder based mounted type of things that you can kind of see with the Horus Heresy set before they all kind of took on this type of role to their armor. The jump packs as well would be kind of the old assault marines, and even the Terminator armor as well, you can see still has the kind of influences of the old kind of 30k Space Marine armor, but of course with tusks and other kind of weird things attached to it from the Chaos Space Marines. You have here as well the Obliterators, which are unique to the Chaos Space Marines, are basically Chaos Space Marines that have been mutated and augmented so much that they're as much demon-possessed machine as they are man. So they kind of warp into it and are just big, huge, heavy hitters. You have a Hellbrute, which is one piece we get in the next issue, actually, which is something that's coming in issues 37 and 38. It's a different type of Hellbrute here, but of course it's another horrible kind of dreadnought where I think the Chaos Space Marine, or what's left of him, is kept in a state of perpetual anger to make sure that he's good and cranky for taking on all the enemies of the Chaos Space Marines. And of course you have the Land Raider, which, if you ever played the Dawn of War game, was the most powerful unit in the computer game, which is basically just an armored tank that carries Terminators and Space Marines in it. You have a story here called War, of course, a short story with the orcs. You have here details of the Havocs themselves. So essentially, yeah, they're just the fire support of the Chaos Space Marines, and of course, if you roll the dice, you get to see what kind of little bits and pieces of history you have for them. You've got the data sheet, and it also shows you what kind of weapons there are as well. So you've got the missile launcher, you've got the Reaper cannon, chain cannon, excuse me, the heavy bolter, and the laser cannon. So of course it just goes into the kind of the core rules of using these units in fight phases in the actual main game itself, and there's no scenario per se in this issue. So that's issue 35. Issue 36, of course, will give you the paint guide for the minis you have, and of course, if you're following the paint guide exclusively from the magazine series, you should have plenty of the paints here to kind of color your lads in. So you can see here from just the paints you have alone that you can kind of get a good level of detail done on them. The next bit of lore is interesting because it's the engines of the damned. Now, one of the cool things about the Chaos Space Marines is they have a kind of a twisted form of the machine spirit. So essentially the Imperium would just make a machine and it works. A lot of the mechanics would think that there's a kind of a soul inside the machine known as the machine spirit. In the case of the Chaos, what they normally do is they just get a demon and they trap it in the machine, which turns into some really scary, really ugly things. And part of the guys maintaining that are called warpsmiths. So they're infernal artisans who create and maintain the corrupted engines and vehicles in a Chaos Space Marine army, and you can see them in battle. So they have mechanodrills, which are kind of like Dr. Octopus, that they can use to strike at enemies or rip open the control panels of machines in order to corrupt their code. So kind of horrible, dark, Mechanicus Chaos Space Marine type fellas. You have here the Forge Fiend, again, which is just a gigantic demon construct that is just let loose on the battlefield. A really cool looking model, but again, not something you want to be on the end of, because as you can see here, he has basically three barrels, including one flying out of his mouth. You have a Mauler Fiend, which is just basically another Chaos engine that propels forward very quickly because it's part animal. You have the Lord's Discordant, which is a very interesting model. Basically, it's a heretic that's so obsessed with demon-possessed machines that he takes the battle on top of one. So it's kind of like a scorpion type thing that the Lord Discordant is effectively riding into battle. He also has an aura, which means that other machines can malfunction and fall in his presence. So he also kind of, in lore-wise, he will use fallen machines to kind of supplement his own or his army. And finally, you have the Venom Crawler, which is just essentially a massive war machine that's in the form of a giant scuttling arachnid. So nice, cool, creepy things. You have here the Defiler. Now, these were in the original Dawn of War game again as well. It literally just looks like a crab with two big pincers that will shoot you and kind of grab you and twist you in half. And finally, you have the Helldrakes, which were the kind of the flyers, which were kind of like, basically, they look like dragons, but they were kind of low-flying kind of dogfighters for the Chaos Space Marines. You have here a little bit of lore on Tzeentch. He'd be one of the 4 Chaos Gods. So Tzeentch would be personally my favorite of the Chaos Gods, because he's just a schemer and a planner, and kind of plans within plans within plans. But the fun thing about this is it's very convoluted. So if you ever play kind of a Tzeentch army, you roll the dice and sometimes the characteristics of your models will change. They become tougher, they become better to shoot, or they become faster. So there's a bit of kind of RNG to it, but it's also just fun. There's a board game as well known as the Silver Tower. It's out of print now, but you're in the realm of Tzeentch. And again, because everything is kind of weird and magical and different and twisted, the board game keeps changing and the scenarios keep changing and just mad crazy things happen. So he's kind of among one of the most fun chaos demons to play against. A lot of his army would be the Lords of Change, so these would be the big models that would affect changes on the army. So this is a beautiful model. It's a big, huge thing. You have the Screamers of Tzeentch, which essentially are just flying teeth. I've used them in the 40k game and they're brilliant. You just fly them over a unit and there's modes everywhere on it and teeth everywhere on it, and it just takes scalps out of everything. You have the Heralds of Tzeentch, which would be kind of, say, the wizards of the Tzeentch army. And finally you have the Mutalith with Vortex Beasts, which is just a huge mutated creature whose body is flooded with the strange power of Tzeentch, and as you can see, it's kind of a mishmash of a load of weird things. You have part 9 of the Bonds of Honor story. You also have the data sheets. So basically it just gives you a little bit of an explanation of what data sheets, what they are, how they do, what you do with them. And finally you have scenario 23, which is Big Guns Never Tire, using your Havocs with aspects of either a Chaos Marine victory, a draw, or a Tyranids victory. So with no further ado, let's have a look at the actual minis themselves. Now, this one, of course, is the las cannon. So again, these guys are the heavy support. Now, they are roughly the same size as the other Chaos Space Marines, but they are still slightly bigger because you can see that they're adorned with kind of massively, stupidly sized weapons. Now, again, because it's 30k as opposed to 40k, even though it's all in the future, these are slightly kind of less futuristic, if that's the right way to describe it, than their kind of 40k counterparts. So you'll see that the weapons are a little bit more bulky. Like whereas a las cannon would be kind of mounted under the shoulder of modern Terminators or anything like that, it's mounted on top of the shoulder for the 30k guys, and you can see the influence here. Again, it's just really cool little model that you can see here that again there's a kind of a lot more wires attached to it, kind of frayed, things like that for the las cannon, and it's just mounted on top of his shoulder, and a nice kind of closed fist here because he's a cranky lad. You have here the missile launcher. Again, the same thing, that it's more kind of top-loaded rather than kind of loaded with an enclosed magazine. You have the Eye of Horus here, symbol on the right. And you have, again, another kind of red eyepiece that designates the guy as a heavy kind of support unit. He also have this kind of claw here at the right. I'm not sure why he has that, but again, it looks pretty cool. Maybe it's to kind of help load the top loader, that he doesn't need another guy to actually load for him, that he's able to do it independently, I'm guessing. But again, you can see here is just a big huge ammo pack, so he's got at least 7 kind of pieces of ammo in that backpack, and he's got at least 4 rounds here in the actual missile launcher himself. So again, a pretty cool little one. You have here the heavy bolter. Now the heavy bolter again is a chain fed one, and we could see it in the previous ones as well. And what's cool is that he's got a lot of wires coming in out of his helmet to the power backpack. So again, even though it's still the future, it's kind of retro future, if you know what I mean, in comparison to his 40k compatriots. You have here again the usual beautiful iconography that you'd have skulls and things like that, and essentially the ammo pack, you can see here, is just transparent, that it's just fed completely out into the actual heavy bolter, so you can lay down a fairly hard suppressing fire. So these guys would be great fire support units for the rest of the Chaos Space Marines. And lastly, we have the rail chain cannon here, which is just a beast of a thing. I mean, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator 2 out the window of Cyberdyne Systems chain gun type of thing. Again, a really cool kind of little model with the whole retro futuristic kind of aspect. Like, these guys are lugging some serious pieces of kit, and anything that approaches them is going to be having a bad time. So again, that's the rail chain cannon. So again, a cool little thing. And finally, we would have the leader here, which again has the old chainsword, has the Abaddon top knot, and has a plasma pistol here. So it's not a bolt gun, it's an actual plasma pistol. So again, he would do kind of damage to armor or anything like that. And again, just a kind of a cool little leader with the type of backpack, and you of course got the symbol of chaos and all the usual iconography on top of it. So the Havocs are a kind of a very interesting addition to your Chaos Space Marine army, and certainly will be a nice little bit of heavy hitters for the Combat Patrol magazine. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was issues 35 and 36 of our continuing series. As always, if you like these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And until next time, this is Sean, signing off.